So Children of the Whales episode 4 was a fairly interesting episode, and I have to say overall I enjoyed it more times than not. Now there was a few sections in this episode that I found a little weird, but we'll get to that in a little bit here. But something that's very interesting is they start expanding a bit more on what happened to this Mud Whale Island and why these invaders seemingly came in to kill them. And what's really interesting is the episode pretty much starts off with Suo pretty much getting promoted to being leader, kind of like captain of this island in a lot of ways, and they pretty much give him his first and last mission immediately after kind of appointing him as their leader, which was essentially to put the island into a suicide pact, where essentially they want to sink the island and let everyone drown on the island and have some sort of like kind of like peaceful and dignified death, because they see no possible way to defeat this oncoming enemy. And we get the kind of confirmation which kind of exiled from this place and pretty much were sent to live out their days outside of the original island that they were a part of. But ultimately it seems like that exile was eventually going to lead to their death, and hence what happened with Leokas' island was apparently supposed to be the first one to kind of take them out, but obviously something happened there. So the second wave came in, and then we ultimately saw what happened. So the elders are pretty much saying there's no way that we can defeat this. We knew this day was coming. We've been in exile for all these years. There's no possible way for us to defeat it, which in their defense, it actually makes sense because they aren't a island of fighters. I mean, only 2 people stood up to fight the opponents that came upon them. So of course, who are they going to fight? Like, there's definitely the mentality in all the generations that have gone past. It makes sense why the elders would think that a dignified death of drowning in the sand would make sense, but of course, Suo is saying, no, there has to be a way. And then when one of the elders, the oldest elder, it seems like, starts talking about a way with the Falena and things like that, and then of course Suo has to get knocked out there, so it leaves us a bit hanging on, like, what actually are they hiding and what could possibly happen here? But with the way the episode eventually goes, with our main character Chakra seeing this vision that is implanted on one of the little girl characters, and essentially he gets to interact with the dead and things like that, and then how the episode ultimately ends with that giant chair and whatever is sitting upon it, that weird beast of a creation, I wouldn't be surprised if this beast, this kind of like random thing that everyone keeps talking about, would be that beast that was locked away down there, and maybe that's the source of everything that's happening. Maybe each of the islands more or less has like some sort of giant symbol, some sort of giant power that kind of controls it. Maybe something like that's going to happen, but I think it's pretty clear as day that the vision that Chakra was getting that was implanted in this one character who seemingly had no idea that it was happening was due to this creature on this giant chair that we see that is at the bottom of Mud Whale Island, which I find to be very interesting. I find that to be an unexpected twist because all along we have characters like Leokas talking about this Falena and things like that, and I thought it was just an idea of like what these people were on the island, but it seems like possibly this Falena and all these other kind of like words that we weren't 100% sure how they were going to relate could possibly be this person or this beast down below in the island, and possibly that's kind of the entire relation to everything that's happening. And I think that's interesting because this episode had a lot going on for it, because it expands on what happened to this island, why they essentially were keeping secrets from their people, and it's clear that they were exiles. They couldn't let them know that they were exiled. Now, of course, we don't know exactly why they were exiled. Maybe they didn't want to be a part of war, and that's why they got, expelled from their island there, but it's very interesting the fact that we got a lot of information with that, but it still leaves that question of why they were exiled and why ultimately they came out to kill them, because obviously it's been a while before they ultimately got attacked. So what caused them to essentially get attacked now when all these years have passed and all these generations where they weren't exiled? But also it leaves the question, is it possible that the marked ones, the ones that can use this sort of thema or this ability that allows them to do some supernatural things, is that part of a curse of the exiled? Like, maybe they were exiled and then this kind of like burden was put so they have short lifespans. Like, there's so many questions that you could have, like how they were exiled, or if it was just the elders who have normal life or something like that. It's really hard to say, but it's very interesting to think of. And I think it's very just interesting where the episode leaves us off, because it is such a, okay, we have an idea of what this giant chair is relating to, all these weird visions that Chakra was kind of interacting with in this episode, being able to talk to the lost dead that have been kind of deceased and things like that. So it does, like, answer some questions of how some of the supernatural stuff was happening, and maybe this beast is also implanting the thema in these characters so they can use this ability, but at the cost of their life being shortened. Though the one thing I didn't really like with the episode is when the characters were essentially going down below and they had to fight through the guards, it felt very fun and silly, which it didn't really feel like it fit the mood of the episode. Like, the episode starts off in a very dark way, explaining the exile and how they want to have the suicide pact, essentially, and then also with the dead visions and things like that, and then you got into this very cheerful kind of side of it, and it just kind of felt out of place, and it felt like it was trying to be a different style anime than the past few episodes have been. Luckily, it wasn't too big of a part of the episode, like it was only a small fraction of it, but it definitely felt out of place, and I was like, I wonder why they're trying to go in that more cheerful persona. Maybe they will start doing that a bit more as the show goes on, and maybe it'll start working a bit more, but it definitely felt out of place. But the one thing that's kind of interesting is we get introduced to this one new character. I'm forgetting her name, but essentially, it seems like she's also a part of the guards. Her character design almost feels like it could be pulled out of, like, Street Fighter. Like, it was a ridiculous character design, but I actually quite appreciated it, and also found it was kind of, like, humorous, her interactions with Chakra and kind of, like, this big sister relationship. I found that to be pretty charming myself. But once again, the art design has seriously left my jaw on the floor. Like, when that vision was happening with Chakra and him, like, talking with his, you know, dead friend, his dead crush, and everything like that, like, just the way they're blending all those colors, it just looks so drop dead beautiful, and I love how this show looks, as well as how it sounds. Like, it has some pretty good OST tracks. This episode definitely answers some question, but it also leaves room open for much more, where we have to ask, like, what's this giant chair and this beast that's sitting on it? Is this the Philena? Is this the beast that has been giving these characters abilities? Why fully were they exiled? Why are they now getting hunted? Like, there's so much to still ask, but I do appreciate how much information given to us, the viewer, at a pretty early stage in this series, so I'm very excited to see where episode 5 is going to go. I think this might be my least favorite of the 4 episodes, however, even with that said, I still very much enjoyed it, and I'm excited to see where episode 5 is going to go next week. But let me know your thoughts. What did you think of the episode with all the information that has been revealed, but also with all the new questions that we now have? What are you thinking of the series overall? Let me know your thoughts. And before you leave, smack that like button, share your support. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.